Hey Magic Gang, this is Glenn Bishop, Magic Mysteries and much more. This is my thoughts on Erdnase, expert at the card table, published by S.W Erdnase, and I consider it one of the 10 most important books ever published on magic, which includes card magic. We're going to continue talking about it, but we're going to transfer to another book, and this is the book that we're going to transfer to, The Magic and Methods of Bertram by Bertram. This is also a book that I consider one of the 10 best books ever written on magic. And the reason is Bertram was a close friend of Di Vernon's. He didn't copy Di. And Ross performed, he's pretty much performed a lot of magic. He did what would most people consider generally the type of magic he did was close-up magic, but he's most known for his magic work with manipulating coins, like coins through the table, different coin methods. Many of these different coin tricks were published in the book The Stars of Magic, which we will get to later on in this series I'm doing about books. But anyway, Bertram was an excellent magician, and I believe he was originally from Canada and lived in Canada. Anyway, Ross has in this particular book, at the end of the book, a small section on Erdnase and at the time that it was happening. And he basically talks about the early Erdnase illustrator right here. Okay, this is where it starts. And this says it's prior to the 1947 SEN convention, Martin Gardner had done a great deal of research and was successful in locating the person that drew the illustrations for the book, Expert at the Card Table. And that was Marshall D. Smith, which in the book he was M.D. Smith. Anyway, this is what the author looked like. He was at this convention, and it was in Chicago. And if we can get into a close-up of this particular picture, this is M.D. Smith signing autographed copies. He's autographing different copies of Erdnase, and there are several noted magicians that are surrounding him for this basically photo of what is going on at this particular convention. And right here, this picture of this gentleman right here is Di Vernon himself, which was one of the main magicians who was not only a huge fan of the book Expert at the Card Table. He wrote the book, which I talked about in the first video we did on Erdnase, which is Revelations, which is his version of Erdnase, and it's the Erdnase Expert at the Card Table with Di Vernon's thoughts on how Erdnase did magic and different card manipulations. So anyway, getting back to the Bertram book, the interesting thing is he talks about Martin Gardner, and the interesting thing is Bertram basically says that that like it's an actual fact that and it says right here, successfully locating the artist by the name of Marshall D. Smith. It was an ink artist who had illustrated the renowned book and pseudonym for E.S. Andrews. So S.W. Erdnase is assumed at this particular time to be fact was a pseudonym of E.S. Andrews. Now, where that particular thing came up from was because there was a company called Drain's House of Magic in Chicago, and Drain, who supplied magic for my dad's magic shop and J. Marshall's magic shop. The real interesting thing is that Drain supposedly met Erdnase, but there's no actual facts for this, and he basically said that he bought the copyright for Erdnase. Okay? And this is according to a story that was told to me by J. Marshall. Now, if this is true and Drain bought the copyright, he would have had to probably seen Erdnase and met him, and then found out his name was really E.S. Andrews during the purchase, because he would have bought the copyright from E.S. Andrews if S.W. Erdnase's real name was E.S. Andrews. Well, this is basically what Drain said, and Di Vernon was present at the time, that the owner of the House of Drain, which is a magic company, they basically said that he was E.S. Andrews and it was spelled backwards, and it was supposedly new to Vernon at the time. Well, the real interesting thing is that's never really been documented as actually truth, except that people just accepted that as truth. Okay? Smith gave the belief account of his meeting with E.S. Andrews, who requested that line of drawings of his hands be made from proposed book on card magic. Well, he never really divulged to Mr. Smith, which is M.D. Smith, that his name was E.S. Andrews. That was later confirmed by a story, and basically E.F. Smith himself, when Martin Gardner came with a picture of his candidate, who he believed to be Erdnase, which was, I believe it was Milton Franklin Andrews, and he basically said, "Is that Erdnase?" Well, how does E.S. Andrews translate into Milton Franklin Andrews, and other candidates that claimed, magicians claim that could be Erdnase? Well, they could be, but they're probably not, because if his name is E.S. Andrews, which was S.W. Erdnase spelled backwards, a person named Milton Franklin Andrews, that doesn't match up right there. Okay, but anyway, this was before my time, which happened back in the 40s, and it's all interesting, and it's all another situation where magicians were trying to connect the dots to who Erdnase was and whether or not he was a professional gambler. So I'm going to close the book on this particular book at this particular time, and I'm going to sum up a couple of things that I did on the last video of Revelations. Well, I'm going to quickly try to find the page here where Erdnase basically says the reason. Here it is, the preface. He says, "In offering this book to the public, the writer uses no excuse for its existence. The hypocritical chant of reformed gamblers or whining mealy-mouthed anyway, he goes into talking about other things. And as to all card lovers of card games, it should prove interesting, and as a basis of card entertainment, it is particularly inexhaustible. It may contain to the unwary who are innocent anyway, he keeps going on, and it may demonstrate to the typo that he cannot, and he continues to go on, and it make fools or wise the continual annual crop of suckers. But whatever the result may be, if it sells, it will have accomplished his primary motive of the author, as he needs the money." Okay, this is basically what the author is saying. The reason he's going to do the reason he's publishing Expert at Card Table, right here is said by the author, as he needs the money. Okay, well, if you're a professional card shark, and if you had the skill that is basically pretty much all through this book is basically almost an encyclopedia of how to manipulate playing cards. Okay, if you had this skill, and it was published in 1902, which it says copyright 1902 by S.W. Erdnase. Okay, basically, if you had this skill, and it's 1902, it was very easy to find a card game. And if you had the skill to be able to do all this, and if you were a card cheat, you basically probably wouldn't have needed the money. because it was easy to find a card game back in 1902. And if you have this kind of skill, I still don't understand why you would need the money. Why would you go to the extreme of publishing a book if you needed the money, if you were a card cheat, where you could just go out and make the money with your deck of cards? Okay? Publishing a book costs a great deal of time, it costs a great deal of money, and it costs a great deal of effort. Okay? There was a lot Erdnase invested in this book. Okay? One of the investments, of course, even though it was self-published, were the illustrations. He had these illustrations drawn directly from life, which basically means these are actually Erdnase's hands posing for the photographs while holding a deck of cards that M.D. Smith drew. Okay, Erdnase, in other words, went to the expense of having these pictures drawn specifically for this book. Okay, and the book has two complete sections. A supposed card table sections, our card cheating section, which is at the beginning, and then the second section is here in the back, which Erdnase called chapter and legerdemain. Okay, these illustrations continue on. Okay, this is in the legerdemain section, and if you look at it, okay, the illustrations continue. Okay, and right here in this particular volume, we're at page 167. Okay, and so far this is figure 96, and this is figure 95. So the illustrations go on more after that. And these illustrations cost money to have someone come into your hotel room where you were staying in Chicago and draw them one at a time. And they probably took days and days to do. Then there's the typesetting and the type and the text that had to be written. This book took quite a long time to develop, okay, because we're talking way back in the days when the printing press wasn't as advanced as the printing press is today. So they did not have the ability to take a picture of the illustrations and then basically use a computer to do any type of layout, because computers didn't exist. So this was a huge time investment, and it was probably quite a substantial investment in cash. And that in itself was probably why, way back at the beginning of the book, when Erdnase writes the introduction, he basically said he needed the money. Well, he needed the money because he invested in this book. In my opinion, if he were a card shark, he wouldn't have had to invest in the book to make the money back. He would have just went out, found a game, won money in a card game, and then that would be it. Okay. So my opinion of why this book was published, Expert at the Card Table, was because Erdnase was probably some type of card enthusiast or some type of magician. He may have been an assistant to a magician. He may have been a performing magician that only did private parties. He may have been just an amateur magician that wanted to publish a good book on magic. Okay? That's pretty much it. And basically, I'm now closing the book on my opinions on Erdnase, Expert at the Card Table. I want to thank you all for watching and listening, and have a great day.